Continuing with my NBA preview, next on my list would be the Western Conference, and starting from basically alphabetical order in terms of the divisions, starting with the Northwest Conference, or the Mishmash Division, because there's only one team that's technically in the Northwest, that's Portland, and the team in Minnesota is just in the plain North, and Minnesota, two teams in the Mountain, and then one team in the South Central with Oklahoma City. But the team that I'm going to start off with is a team that's also got a mishmash roster, and that is in team construction. That's the Denver Nuggets. This is the second year of the Mike Malone era, and this is a team that I don't know whether they understand whether they're coming or going. I mean, if you look at their roster, they have a lot of overlapping players, including the two players they drafted this year, Beasley and Murray, Jamal Murray. They already had Emmanuel Mudiay and Gary Harris on the team. Now, if you look at the way that those four players are, there seem to be defined roles. Mudiay is a point guard. Murray's a combo point guard, shooting guard. He came in college, I think, as a shooting guard, became a point guard. And then you have Beasley, who's a shooting guard, and Gary Harris, who's a shooting guard, and there's really no flexibility with them because their height and size kind of limits them to the role. And that's not just it. You add in, you look at their front court, their center position. It's Nikola Jokic, Nick Jokic, excuse me, and Jusuf Nurkic. Nurkic is a banger, kind of the old school, big, burly center who plays with a little bit of an edge and not the typical European player. And then you have Jokic, who kind of came on in the second half. More skilled offensively, more nimble defensively at the very least. And he's the guy more likely who's going to be the starter with Nurkic coming off the bench. And then you got power forward. You have another guy they drafted, Juancho, Hernan Gomez. I think it's Hernan Gomez. I think the H is silent, not Hernan Gomez. Younger brother of Willie, Hernan Gomez, who's a member of the Knicks. Last year drafted a second-round pick. Juancho was a first-round pick of the 15th overall in the draft this past year. And he's kind of like a stretch four. He reminds a little bit of Mirotic in a little way, not exactly, but he's a guy that's going to be a playmaking, shooting kind of power forward or stretch forward. And then you already had, Kenneth Faried, and to a lesser extent, Darrell Arthur, who could play the four. And then small forward, you have Barton, and you have Wilson Chandler, and Gallinari. And again, it's a bunch of nice players that seemingly overlapped on the position. And they basically said, let's throw everything at the wall and hope what comes back. Well, to me, you need to develop the players to, facilitate the change that they're hoping, which is, making the playoffs, winning in the playoffs, eventually winning an NBA championship, which is the goal of the Denver Nuggets. But if you look at the way that they're playing, and with the roster, with all the players that are playing, it, A, hinders the development aspect, and two, it really doesn't allow for a certain style to set in. I mean, this is a team that you think about the Denver Nuggets in their history when they're particularly been good, with the 80s, 90s, or their 2000s with Carmelo Anthony. They were a team that seemingly go, take advantage of their, particularly at home, of the altitude, go up-tempo, score a ton of points, maybe give up a ton of points, but they had an identity. You look at this current team, they're 14th in pace, they're like 19th in offense and 24th in defense efficiency. And when they went fast, in particularly the first half, they tried to pick up the tempo, their defense suffered. It continued to slide down. And then they slowed down the pace. Their offense went down. But their defense became from being garbage to somewhat bad. And by that somewhat bad, I mean they were bad, but they weren't as awful. And that kind of led them to actually being behind teams like the Bulls and the Pacers in terms of pace, which was like, you don't know what you're doing. This season, though, what they need to find out is, A, what players are part of the future? How are they going to develop them? And what is going to be their style? And that's going to be on Mike Malone to develop what they're going to be. Also, in the future, you may actually want the defensive aspect that's currently struggling, you may want to consider adding defensive players to the roster who can come in, particularly if they're going to continue with or go back to the more up-tempo style of pace. and space, you may want to have guys who can defend, guys who can actually take advantage, maybe not create their own shot, but get easy buckets, and in general, help shore up the defense a little bit better. And that could come in the form of maybe players that they get back in the Kenneth Faried trade, which in all likelihood will happen this year. I mean, he's been in trade rumors for the last 3 years. They have to either pull the trigger on him or decide, hey, we're going to keep this guy, or either have him come off the bench and be like the energy player, which he could seemingly thrive in with a second unit. But as far as the season is concerned, it's about answering those questions and learning through those difficult times that may be coming ahead for them. But they also could be very exciting. They're going to be in some shootouts, particularly out west, although not conducive to time for somebody that lives in the Eastern time zone like I do. Hope I'm wrong for Nuggets fans, but sorry, this is simply not going to be the year.